Well, welcome to the Coach's Corner. Hi, I'm Frank Barbehenn, and I will be your discipleship coach again for this week. Over the years, I have done many parenting classes, from Sunday school classes to day-long seminar, week-long seminar. Even did a year-long training where we met with the parents weekly, and we focused on having family meetings. However, what I'm doing here is a brief series for you, and I am focusing on a couple of core methods or approaches that I think are the more effective approaches in parenting, particularly when you're focused on character and leadership. All right, jumping in. In the 1800s, children were used for manual labor on farms and in industries. And children quickly developed a lot of skills, engaging reality on the farm and survival skills for industry. And families viewed children as economic assets, if not an economic necessity, particularly like on the farm. Well, as we became more enlightened, we began to think that this was like child slavery, that we were using our children. They were functioning like indentured servants. And there were states that were making laws in the 1800s to begin to recognize that we've got to make a change. So, for example, Massachusetts in 1836 passed a law that children under 15 actually had to get 3 months of education. In 1842, Massachusetts, the same state, limited child labor to the modest amount of 10 hours a day. Now, fast forwarding in the 1900s here to 20th century, we really viewed that as an abuse of children. So in 1938, we developed federal guidelines that strongly restricted children being used for manual labor, and we made it compulsory that they had to get education. So in the past 7.5 decades, we have viewed it as a child's work to be in school, not to be doing manual labor. And we have viewed our children as economic liabilities or economically worthless. However, we began viewing children as absolutely priceless. So what that set up was parenting anxiety, that we as parents needed to make our children have fun as kids, that childhood was about fun, and that it was all about making our children happy. How many times have we heard, all I want is for my children to be happy? And that's been the focus of parenting, but it's been an anxiety for parents. Some people have even called it parent anguish. Now, just a sliver example, in my own practice, I've been in practice 35 years. In the past decade, I've actually had good middle-class families, parents, coming to me and soberly and seriously asking me, are we doing psychological damage to our children if we have them do chores? And I've had to, believe it or not, I've had to encourage them that doing chores actually can be helpful for the child. Excuse me. Come at this from a totally different angle for a moment. Social psychologists have looked at 3 generations: my generation, the baby boomers, Gen Xers, and the millennials. Long story short, they have said that my generation became materialistically focused. We became focused on experiences that make us feel good. We didn't have a particular philosophy of life. We didn't have a particular philosophy of suffering. We didn't develop a philosophy of suffering. We didn't develop a foundation of absolute core values. And We passed that ambiguity on to the Gen Xers, and then they have passed it on to the millennials, the Gen Yers. Social psychologists have even called us baby boomer men lost boys. In fact, there's a book by that title. We passed that lostness on to the Gen Xers and to the millennials. So what happened across the country is that the Gen Xers and the millennials have been going into counseling centers, and I've gotten my share of the Gen Xers and the millennials looking for an answer to the core question of who in the world am I? How do I come at life other than the pursuit of moment after moment after moment, or opportunity after opportunity after opportunity for personal happiness? We call it identity diffusion. They were confused about who they are and looking for somebody to be able to talk through these issues. In fact, I thought the older I got, the less rapport I would have with young people, and actually it turned out to be the opposite. They really value being able to talk to an adult of the establishment with whom they can have honest conversations about life, because they rarely have a context within which they can do that. The upshot of both of these is that there's been this tremendous focus on the pursuit of happiness. So parents feel really squeezed to make it the absolute goal, and it's their burden to make their children happy. All right, we'll continue with this then next week. In the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to blog it, which some of you have, and I appreciate that. And the other way is to just email me directly at frank@peakperformancediscipleship.com, and we'll see you next week.